Welcome back, everybody, to more from the Sable Lions. I'm here today with Jordan for round 5 of the Gawler League Cup from Tabletop Warfare. How are we doing, Jordan?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Fantastic. And after the excitement that was the Pikarom Mirror in round 4, we are on to 2 of the big fire decks in the tournament. And in the format, we've got Reshiram being piloted by Blake Wightman on the left, and Blacephalon being piloted by James Goreing on the right. Now, this is the last round of Swiss, Jordan, and for Blake, this is a win and in. I think James is relatively comfortable. He's 3-1, but Blake is in a bit of oh no, sorry, James is 3-0-1, sorry, and Blake is at the moment 3-1, so he needs to win to get in.
Yeah, correct. So it's a very interesting scenario where James just wants to ID this game because he just gets to top up with a tie, whereas Blake says, "No, the ID doesn't get it for me. I have to win." So James is forced to play here, where usually an ID would get him into cut. And that means if James loses this match, there's a chance that he actually bubbles out rather than having the guaranteed cut that he would have with the tie.
Yeah, so whilst Blake's just playing through his first turn here, at this point in the tournament, Matt Tav is 3-0-1. Blake, myself, and Liam are all 3-1, and James is 3-0-1 as well. So I believe Matt Tav and I, we ID'd because I wasn't super concerned and was quite hungry and wanted to go home. And the other 2 games were played out. Liam needs to win. If Liam wins, then Blake needs to win. And if both of them win, then it's on resistance as to whether James or I are in top cut. So it's a pretty intense end to a day of Swiss play whilst Blake puts these 4 energy off of a Kiawe onto a Reshiram.
It seems like the entire top cut is decided by the outcome of this game, not just between these 2 players, but between a lot of the other players as well. So
yeah,
definitely a pretty high stakes game here. And
at this stage, the only person who's in is Matt Tav. So yes, we'll wait and see how this matchup goes. It's interesting because unlike the Pikarom matchup for Blacephalon, Reshiram doesn't have an efficient way of skipping the B-string turn. So you have to presume that at some point there is going to be a ton of B-strings played by James on the right-hand side, but unlike against Pikarom, Reshiram has 270 HP, so that means that there's 6 energy that need to come off of a Blacephalon field in order to take a big knockout.
6 is quite a lot. Obviously, it's only 5 if you're lucky enough to have the beast energy, but that's still a lot of resources you're removing from your board to take a knockout. And even if James is able to play all these B strings, get a massive 6 energy knockout on a Reshiram, there's every chance that Blake could just return with a welder and knock out the Blacephalon. And now, all the chances that James gets another 6 energy into play after that, probably not that high.
That is true. So the welder gets James into the knockout on Jirachi there. There's 2 energy in play. He also has that Meowth, which is threatening. But Blake here looks to be going along quite nicely. He's got a Guzma in hand. He's got an Arcanine that's being powered up on the bench. And he's happy to just take a big knockout there on Blacephalon and make James follow up and see what happens.
A pretty interesting start to the game because it's not very often you see a turn 1 welder to take out a Jirachi. And that really left James with not a lot to work with when the Blacephalon inevitably got knocked out. But hey, he's into the B-string turn now, so who knows what could happen. It looks like he's got 1 in hand to start his turn off, which is a pretty solid start.
Yep, and he's got a Lily as well, so he can draw some more cards, and that Meowth is in play. So
and assuming he's able to evolve this Poipole,
yep,
he'll be able to get at least 3 energy on the board. But he's going to need quite a lot more than that to take this knockout. So we might even see James resorting for something like a bursting burn here.
Possibly. There's the attachment, and play down the Mew from hand and Lily for 5. If he finds an Ultra Ball, that's 2 B-strings that he's going to be able to grab from the Persian. But, misses them all there, which is unfortunate.
Was the Meowth down last turn? I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, 100%. So, Blake, very risky play.
He misses that turn.
Yeah, very easy.
I completely forgot about the Meowth being down last turn.
Very easy for Blake to have an issue here, but that's okay. James missed it, so it doesn't matter.
Yep, if he'd gotten that Persian, he would have been able to get either double B-string or even just B-string the Ganadol. He would have very easily been able to knock out this Reshiram. But now, we got to ask, is he going to be forced to go for that bursting burn, or maybe he just sacrifices something like a Mew and tries to get the 1-hit KO next turn?
Yeah, so James is going to be 1 energy short here. Due to the retreat, he's going to need to get rid of that one, which means he's only got 5 in play, and 5 is not enough to take out that that Reshiram. Pikarom would have been, but not this one. James.
I'm trying to remember
a lot of supporters there.
Were both of those Poipoles down last turn? I think they might have been. I think he led nothing but he had 2 Poipole and 1 Meowth, didn't he?
I think so, yes. And there was the Blacephalon was in play, which Blake has knocked out. So
okay, cool.
I think we're all above board here. We're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna see the shambles of the previous 4 rounds. But then again, I could be completely wrong.
Good. So yeah, it's a bit of a miss here. What is good is that the Bursting Burn will bring the Reshiram down to only 5 energy discards. So, oh wow, he's actually just going to go all in and hit the Reshiram.
Going for the 5, 250. I mean, I guess the 1 energy still does the job, but this is going to put Blake in a really good position, even without the Reshiram getting knocked out next turn. He's going to be able to just GX and knock out a Blacephalon, and there might not be any way for James to respond.
I also see the Miltank in Blake's hand, and he does have a Guzma if he wanted to go for a Guzma shenanigan with Miltank to try and kill off this Reshiram, but I don't think that you can afford to stay in the Beast Ring zone for more than 1 turn, so you really just need to go for this knockout on the active, I think. So we'll see what he gets off of this Heat Factory. He might be able to get, say, access to a switch and a welder, which would allow him to heal a bunch of damage from this Reshiram, but I wouldn't think it's too likely.
It's actually going to attach the escape board there. It could be that we're looking at a maybe a manual attachment or a welder to the Arcanine on the bench, but I didn't see one in the hand for Blake there, so I'll have to wait and see. The Ultra Ball sorry, not the Ultra Ball, the Fiery Flint coming down, which means that there is a ton of energy in the field. That's actually all of Blake's energy gone there. Wow.
He does have Welder as well in hand, so if he wants to, he can just Welder to the Arcanine on the bench, retreat Reshiram, and actually just take the knockout with Arcanine's second attack that does base 190 damage.
Well, there you go. So he does have the Welder. Didn't spot it, but it's there. And because of the escape board, that means that there's going to be a easily powered up Reshiram next turn. If James chooses to take the knockout on this Arcanine, and similarly, if he chooses to take the knockout on the Reshiram, then Arcanine is there for the follow-up as well. Puts down the Miltank just in case. And he could even go for a Let Loose here as well.
He could. After this turn, the Persian is going to be active again, so he will be able to potentially pull off a Catwalk for whatever 2 cards he wants to find. But now that Beast Ring isn't active and James has no energy on the board, it's going to be pretty awkward for James to pull off what he needs to do, even though he's going to be able to have access to any 2 cards.
That is true. Like going with the Nest Ball here, have a look through the deck to try and find out what he's got floating around. It might just be a whiff, but there could also be potential for a Jirachi as well. Instead, he goes for the EV Snorlax here, so maybe looking to power up another attacker after this Reshiram presumably meets its maker.
Yeah, I'm thinking next turn, James's best bet might be to try and Guzma out that Reshiram and just knock it out, or even use the Mew to do the last bit of damage to that Reshiram and knock it out while the Mew's in the active, because you really don't want to have a GX in the active to be knocked out by Arcanine. So I'm guessing that's probably what James is going to be looking to do on this turn. But where does he find the rest of his prizes after he knocks out the Reshiram?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and especially because Blake was able to remove the stadium, means that there's no easy search here for James. The knockout can come from the Mew, but if the Mew takes a knockout, then what's the follow-up? I mean, James is in a position where Arcanine will just knock out the Mew next turn, and there's another 2 powered attackers, so it's going to be tough.
What James realistically needs to do is he needs to not only take the knockout with Mew this turn, but he needs to set up for knocking out maybe the Lele on the bench on the following turn. And he does have access to Catwalk if he finds Persian, so he can try and set himself up a little bit to pull off a Guzma play next turn, but he's going to be asking for a lot of cards to get enough energy in play to carry Lele next turn.
He certainly is, and finds a Blacephalon here. He's got the Welder for 2 energy as well, and he did pick the Let Loose up too. So there's still opportunities here, but still...
I wonder if his best bet is to use Welder, attach 2 energies to that Blacephalon, and then hope to find a Persian off of the Welder. if not the Welder, then the Let Loose, because then he's putting himself in a good position where he can get a couple of energy into play, and then hopefully use the Catwalk to close out the game next turn.
It doesn't find the Persian there, which is disappointing. Still has the Let Loose to go, so there's still an option there. If he does get it, he can put himself into a better position, but it's not optimal.
I wonder if it's even worth going for it now. I mean, it depends on how many cards are in Blake's hand, but you might just want to settle for taking this knockout and holding on to the Guzma for next turn, because all you would need is an energy and a Guzma next turn to win the game on that Lele.
That's true. Well, a Persian can still get an energy and a Guzma, so the option is still there.
We also have to wonder, does James actually have any fire energy in the discard? Because I think he pulled most of them out already with Naganadel, so the hardest part for James right now is probably going to be able to set up for charging up next turn. Obviously, the energy on the Mew is probably going to be removed when it's knocked out next turn, but he's going to probably need to find one more energy to discard next turn, as well as the Goose to bring up the Lele.
And playing down that Ultra Space means that there is no easy way for him to discard the energy. He's going to pop some damage onto that Reshiram Charizard, and now we're just having a bit of a chat about where the last point goes. It looks like it's going to go onto the Arcanine and then a big knockout on that Reshiram Charizard. Mew is a monster.
It sure is. I don't think that there's any super relevant spot for that 10 damage. It doesn't affect your math on the left. Probably where you're most likely to be looking to take your last prizes, because we know that Blake is pretty well guaranteed to take a prize card this turn. And I'd be pretty surprised if he's not able to find access to a prize card next turn as well. So James is more than likely going to be looking to try and close out the game next turn. He does get 3 cards, extra cards by knocking out the Reshizard, but unfortunately he missed the Persian again, so he's just going to have the cards available and no outs to searching for it, because Catwalk is never going to be active again this game.
At the moment, though, he actually does have all the cards that he needs in hand. Obviously, Arcanine looks like it's going to take a knockout onto this Mew, unless Blake is able to find a Guzma off of Dedenne. So, misses the Guzma, then James has a chance. He's got all the cards he needs to win next turn. It's just about whether Blake comes up with the goods off of this Dedenne or not.
He's got both a Dedenne and a Stellar Wish to find the Guzma, because he can just retreat into, or actually switch even better into Jirachi, and then both the Dedenne and the Let Loose will allow him to see 11 more cards.
Yeah, seems like a pretty good situation to be in. Looking for the Guzma, and there it is. So reveals that, and the game is over. Blake takes game 1. And,
we also saw 2 Acro Bikes off of that Dedenne. So even if he didn't find it from the Dedenne, he was able to look for quite a lot of cards that turn to find the game.
Yeah, Guzma was going to come up trumps at some point, and it was just a matter of when. So it's lucky it did though, because James had all the things that he needed in order to take a knockout the game.
I wonder if James would have been able to play out that turn without benching the Blacephalon, and that would have given Blake no out to win the game next turn. But if you don't bench the Blacephalon and attach an energy to it, you can't use Welder and Guzma in the same turn. So you kind of take away your own win condition by not benching the Blacephalon.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 there. You're going to make the decision about, does my opponent have enough Guzma for this to be a genuine threat? And James is an experienced enough player. He would have done the maths to try and figure out just how likely it was for Blake to get into it, knowing that there was certain amounts of Guzma in the discard pile already. I'm not sure exactly how many there were, but hey, that's okay. There's always a next game.
James did go for the Let Loose as well, so he did everything he could to make it as hard as possible for Blake. But Blake's playing Jirachi, he's playing Dedenne, he's playing Acro Bikes, and of course, most importantly, he's playing Guzma. So he had a lot of ways to find it.
There's a good chance that he'll be able to get there, and Arcanine coming up clutch in that game, taking 4 prizes against Blacephalon. My boy, seeing some action, it's excellent.
He's doing pretty well. Can't complain with a result like that.
Certainly cannot. And Blake has himself, was that a Jirachi that he's put face down there? I believe it was. James has access to a Blacephalon, and this time he's going
players
first.
Getting their preferred starter in this with these decks. I would say that Blacephalon and Jirachi are most certainly the best starters each of these decks can provide.
That's
and
true.
James has a pretty strong hand, it looks like.
James
He's got
has an exceptional hand here.
A couple Bull Search cards. He's got a Lily and a Heat Factory. I don't know if you necessarily want to put the Heat Factory down, because it does help Blake immensely as well, but It's definitely a strong option, and it's going to make sure that James is able to find a whole bunch of cards this turn.
It certainly will. That Lily's going to get himself a whole bunch of cards. There's an attachment there. There's everything that you could want if you were a Blacephalon player. All that James is really looking for here is maybe a Persian, maybe a Ditto Prism, something like that. And Lily getting into a ton of cards here. Choosing to play down the Heat Factory means that there's extra draw options for James here, and it means that there's extra energy in the discard as well, which is exceptional.
Yep, and he was able to find a Fire Energy to activate Heat Factory. It looks like he was considering Ultra Balling it away here, so I'm pretty sure he hasn't used Heat Factory yet. So
I don't think he has, but maybe he's going for Let Loose here. Let Loose, even though Blake has the Jirachi in the active, he's going to Let Loose. Didn't use the Heat Factory, then he's going to save it. Maybe he hits a Fire Energy off of this Let Loose. And since Blacephalon plays something like 15 Fire Energy, I wouldn't be surprised to see one. Means that James gets to draw a few extra cards.
Yeah, he's hoping to get the most out of this Let Loose possible, bringing his opponent down to 4 cards, while himself will get 7. Yeah, it seems like a pretty strong play. Turn 1 Let Loose is a pretty standard approach for Blacephalon in a lot of matchups, but once again, that Jirachi that these Reshiram players seem to be playing at the moment is really making them a little bit more prone to turn 1 Let Loose.
Certainly is, and James actually has the Meowth and a Fire Energy in hand here, so he can potentially get himself into that great hand he was looking for. There's a Welder there for next turn, plays down the Meowth. This is looking like a much better start for James than the last game, even though it wasn't necessarily a bad start.
Yep, that's pretty much all you can ask for turn 1. You got 2 Blacephalons, 2 Poipoles, and Meowth. The only thing that could be better is if that Let Loose was a more useful Pokemon, but I think it's safe to say that Let Loose has already pulled its weight, because Blake's hand is looking a little awkward. It's not too bad, but he might be forced to go for a Dedenne here, or maybe a Let Loose of his own. Or he's probably just going to have to hope to draw well off of Jirachi if he chooses to just get his attacker. And he's just going to stealth for the Dedenne.
Looking like the Dedenne is the option here. We'll wait and see whether that is the best course of action. He shuffles up here. I think there's a Welder in hand, so he might have been in a position where he could have used the Jirachi to maybe set up an attacker, but Dedenne seems like it's probably the better option.
He could have used Let Loose instead of Dedenne, or just shuffled the Welder back into deck, which is a pretty valuable resource for this deck. And of course, it would have brought James's hand back down to 4. And now that he's used his Heat Factory, actually it's still in play, and Blake hasn't replaced it, so he would still have access to Heat Factory regardless.
Certainly will, but no real good cards there for Blake. Like, I mean, I'm looking at
maybe he's going to end up using Let Loose anyway.
He's looking at a very average hand. There's another escape board, which is good. And there's the Let Loose, so let's get rid of that hand from James, and just showing off he finally has the Persian after game 1, and now it's gone. So
he had Persian and B-String, so if Blake was to ever somehow get a turn 1 knockout, James was ready for it.
Yep, it was ready to go.
I don't think that's going to happen. Although I don't think Blake's actually supported yet, right? So it is theoretically still possible for Blake to just draw like a Reshiram, a Welder, and 2 Fire Energy off of his Let Loose. I don't think it's going to happen though.
It's not looking likely, although there is a switch in that hand, so anything could happen. I
don't think he's used Heat Factory yet either. I could be mistaken, but I don't remember him using it yet.
I don't think so. So maybe the not so great start from Blake turns into a reasonably good one off of that Let Loose. He has the option to go into a Jirachi, and still has the switch if he's able to find something off of that. There's an Aqua there as well.
I imagine Blake's just probably looking for Gawler here, and it looks like he managed to find that just off of the Acrobike, so I imagine he's pretty happy to see that now. He's just going to be using his Jirachi to try and set himself up a little better for next turn, and that's pretty much all he needs to do this turn.
That's true. There's a few decent cards there. Depends what he's looking for. There's a switch in hand, so he probably doesn't need another one of those. There's an Acrobike, and that's the one that he chooses to go for, just to get a little bit more draw to help him find what he needs. But next turn, presuming that his Jirachi survives, is going to be double Stellar Wish and then an attack with Reshiram. Be relatively happy. James just having a look at that discard pile going, oh, jeez, I let loose to you. You're not supposed to be playing this many cards.
Exactly. That's the mindset of Blacephalon players. They're like, what, you're still playing the game after I let loose? Now what do I do?
What is going on?
But I would say it's pretty likely that James is gonna. Oh, hey, there it is. He's finally using that heat
There's
factory.
the heat factory. He manages to get an energy off of the bike and then the attachment onto the Growlithe and throws down the Kiawe. So Blake going from a really a sad situation, really, into probably what could be his best turn of the game. That's pretty much all that you can ask for.
James is looking in the discos like, what? You haven't played a supporter yet? Are you serious?
Your turn's still finished? And it's still not finished? This is ridiculous.
Imagine if that was a draw supporter. We'd just keep going.
Yeah, we'd just do some more. Like, it could have been a welder. We could have seen an attack.
Could have been a Lily.
It could have been intense. But that's okay. James now
I'd say
an interesting situation.
Pretty good spot to, at the very least, knock out this Jirachi and kind of entice Blake to take this knockout and go into the B-string turn. I'm not sure if James has access to the Persian with this hand, but if he does, then he'd be feeling pretty confident, I imagine.
Yes, and he also has the Cynthia, so he can draw some cards, help himself set up his board. It's much easier to hit 6 energy on the field when you only have to discard 1 to knock out a Jirachi. Having a bit of a think here. Do I burn the energy? Do I get rid of the stadium? What do I do? Bit of a thought.
I think I would just attach and play the Cynthia. I think that probably gives you the best odds overall. He's actually considering removing the Heat Factory, which is a pretty strong play considering you are versing a fire deck, and Ultra Space is a card that helps only you, whereas Heat Factory helps Blake just as much.
Yeah, exactly, and it means that he's able to get an Aganadel early, and means if he misses one, then there's an option to get another energy onto the field later in the game. So a good decision there. And I mean, the only stadium that Blake is going to replace that Ultra Space with is one that benefits James anyway. So feel pretty confident with that particular decision, even if it means that there's a possibility of 6 less cards off of this, 3 less cards, sorry, off of the Cynthia.
It does feel a little bad replacing a Heat Factory before you even get a chance to use it for the turn. So I can understand where James was thinking, do I get rid of this Fire Energy or do I attach it? But he definitely made the safer play, because the only way this turn goes badly is if he misses that attachment.
Exactly, and an Ultra Ball in hand means that he can get the second Naganadel if he wants to, or he could even grab himself a Persian, which makes a real statement to Blake. Hey, you can knock out my Blacephalon if you want, but I'm just going to get another one straight back.
I feel like if I was going to get the Persian, I would hold the Ultra Ball in hand. Of course, it is entirely possible that Blake plays another Let Loose after KOing this Jirachi, but I don't think that's super likely considering Blake's already had to fill his board with support Pokemon. But he is going to go ahead and get the Persian play just to make sure that he doesn't get wrecked by another Let Loose from Blake. Just playing super safe in this game, it seems, because I think he's pretty confident that as long as nothing goes wrong, he'll be able to have a good chance of winning this game.
It's true, and now Blake is in a situation where his best knockout is actually on Persian, but that doesn't remove the energy, so like it's an awkward situation. You either make James only hit 4 energy, or you give him the option to go into the Persian and... it's too hard. I don't want to deal with it.
The risk you've opened up here now is that Blake can actually go for Guzma onto that Persian, which is the reason why I potentially would have held on. Because now Blake can go into the B-string turn and take away James's easy way of finding B-strings at the same time, which is going to make it a little harder for James to respond to this Charizard, but it's still possible to just draw the cards. You don't need to search for them. It's just a little harder.
Now it's only 1 attachment and a B-string because there's 3 energy in play, and we can see that there's actually a Welder, an Energy, and a Beast Energy as well. So James is checking to see.
Beast Energy here is huge. It's
whipping it out, hoping for the B-string to slam that one down.
Does he not have access to a draw supporter?
Well,
I mean, luckily for him, the Heat Factory is in play again.
And Welder is in hand, so he can attach with Welder if he wants to. Blake just remembering that he needs to have a GX counter. Thumbs up from Blake there.
Yep, that seems somewhat important. But yeah, James has the ability to draw 3 cards with this Fire Energy. It's up to him whether he wants to discard a Heat Factory or Welder. He's going to go ahead and use the Heat Factory. And hey, he can draw another 3 with the Welder if he wants to.
And that is the perfect situation, because now he can find another Naganadel. There's 2 energy in the bin. He can Welder. He can attach an energy to his benched Blacephalon. He's actually well and truly in range of knocking out this Reshiram, even without using B-string.
He's probably going to do it the other way around. He's probably going to attach to the active and welder to the bench, just because he's holding that beast energy.
That is
so if
true,
he wants
yes.
to guarantee the knockout, he can use the beast energy on the active and only have to discard 5 energy from play.
That is true, and finds another energy there as well as another welder, so there is an opportunity to get himself into a big knockout. There's the beast. He's just doing the maths in his head at the moment.
It's pretty nice that James has got himself the knockout here, but it is pretty bad that he missed Beast Ring altogether, because yes, he's going to get this knockout, but he's going to have to remove all of his energy now instead of being able to save some for the future. And he's not only removing all of his energy from play, but also all of the energy discard. So if Blake can take another knockout and remove Beast Ring from play, then James is really going to struggle to find future knockouts.
So he doesn't actually need to remove all of the energy there, and I think this is what Blake is doing at the moment. He's just saying, hey, with the beast energy, you don't actually need to remove all of them. You can actually keep one. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a conversation here for a second. I was in the room when this happened, so
right.
This is why I understand what's going on. So obviously discarding 6 energy is the amount that you normally need to discard in order to take a knockout on the Reshizard, and so James has discarded 6. But Blake said, hey, with the beast energy on the active, you can actually just get rid of 5 and it's still a knockout.
That's very sportsmanlike play from Blake. He could have just said nothing and watched James discard unnecessary energy, but he's letting him know that he didn't need to do that. So very nice of Blake to mention that there.
100%. And so James, I think in the end, ends up leaving the energy on the bench and leaves that Blacephalon in the active nice and fresh. So those 5 energy go into the lost zone. 3 prizes for James.
Yeah, it definitely warms your heart up when you see players helping each other out there. Even though this is a high stakes game for Blake, he definitely needs to win this game if he wants to make top cut. But he doesn't want to win by watching James miss plays. Like, hey man, just
play the game properly. Come on, dude. Like, so what? I think James declared like 330, and Blake was like, what? What do you mean 330? What are you doing that for? So
right.
But that's okay. So now we're looking at Blake trying to find a knockout here. It's interesting because it's still going to be relatively easy for him to win this game as long as James isn't able to find energy for the discard. So because of that big play, James only has 1 energy on the field. So Blake's sitting here going, right, well, if I can get a knockout with Arcanine possibly, or maybe Reshizard, if I can find a way to power it up, I can still actually get an easy way to win this game.
Well, we're making all these assumptions that Blake just needs to take out this Blacephalon and skip Beast Ring and all should be good, but Blake's hand is pretty bad right now, and I don't think there's a very easy way for him to take this knockout, because he would need a welder attaching 2 fire energy on either a Reshizard or the Arcanine to take this knockout. And with only 1 fire energy in hand, even if he hits this Jirachi, there's no way for him to actually take a knockout this, which is huge.
Yeah, so he's making the decision here off of the Stellar Wish, Guzma, which he's seen every single time he's used Stellar Wish, Acrobike or Kiawe. And I think the thought process is, right, well, I've got a Reshizard in hand. I mean, I guess I can just Kiawe to this Reshizard and hope that there's no Beast Ring. But if you were James, that play would probably be quite welcome. I mean, I've not played Beast Ring yet. You're going to give me another turn to do it. That seems perfectly fine by me.
Also, let's not forget that James is down to 2 prize cards, and he hasn't used his Burst GX yet. So if he could just knock out a little Jirachi or a Marshadow, then all he needs to do is Burst GX for game on the following turn, and that'll be over.
Yeah, James showing off a full house there. He's got lots and lots of supporters, but not a lot of energy. So even the Guzmas that he has 3 of a kind in his hand aren't going to do the job. He'd need to find another way to take a knockout because of the lack of energy in his discard pile.
Yeah, it definitely seems like this game is determined by whether Blake can get this knockout or not. And because if he can't, then James only needs a Beast Ring to basically close out the game. So I really feel like Blake's going to be in a lot of trouble here missing this knockout. And I don't think there's any combination of cards that'll get him the knockout off this Acrobike.
Yeah, I don't think that there is. So the question then becomes, what is the next best thing I can do? I mean, you can half hit a Blacephalon if you'd like, but maybe there's another pathway that Luke can take. Luke, what am I talking about? Blake can take. Who's Luke? What's going on? Oh, suddenly, hey, look, there's another Let Loose. Now I'm starting to feel
the problem is if you put the Let Loose down, then you can't bench the Reshizard, but Blake's given up on the idea of playing the Reshizard. He's just going to try and take away James's outs to Beast Ring as much as possible.
Yep.
And then, I guess, try and take the knockout with Arcanine on the following turn.
Well, hey, you never know. You could get into a Welder double energy and knock out the Blacephalon this turn if you get lucky.
It's a pretty bad board from Blake right now. He's got Tapu Lele, Dedenne, double Let Loose Marshadow, and Jirachi on board with only one attacker. If this was like any other deck, a board like that would basically end the game.
It certainly would, and it means that James is in a relatively good position to win here. Even if Blake does get the bonkers hand off of this Let Loose Marshadow, there's still an opportunity for James to come back. So Energy, Nest Ball, Fire Crystal, and not a Welder. So Blake will not be attacking this turn. But
yeah, if he got the Welder, the Fire Crystal would have been enough for him to find what he needed. But I think that he's just going to have to hope James gets not much from the Let Loose now.
Yeah, so I didn't actually catch James's hand there, but I think I did see, and that was a little bit more interesting than Blake's. There's a Guzma there, and I think is that an Ultra Ball, potentially? Maybe it's a Beast Ring even, which would be crippling for Blake here. A Beast Ring would essentially end the game, knowing that James hasn't used his GX attack yet. And Blake going, yep, there's nothing else I can do.
You really can't afford to let James take a prize card here. I almost wonder if you just put the
attachment Guzma for game. There we go.
rather than using Beast for game, Burst for game next time, I might just win the game right away.
Yeah,
that seems fine.
It seems like a perfect hand. And the amusing thing is, as is usually the case, that play was not possible in James's previous hand of 8 or 9 cards. It was only off of the Let Loose that he was able to get that win, but hey, you win some, you lose some. Let Loose is one of those terrible cards that can be really kind or really cruel, and today for Blake, maybe not so kind.
It seems like Blacephalon and Let Loose have made a deal with each other to always give Blacephalon the better end of the stick, because whether it's the Blacephalon player or the other player using Let Loose, Blacephalon just never seems to draw badly off of it.
Well, it's one of those situations where I guess Blacephalon asks for so little that maybe the Let Loose isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, all you need to do is attach energy, and there's 15 of them, so hey, it should be fine, right?
I would think so.
So here we go into Game 3 of Blake's winning in. James feeling pretty confident now. I think by this point, these guys were actually one of the only games that were playing. I mean, we're only 35 minutes into the round, but I think most of the other games had wrapped up, and so there was actually quite a crowd gathering outside of the window for this one. Liam had won, so Blake needs to win to make top cut. And I was getting quite nervous because I think at this point I'm saying, yeah, I'm probably gonna miss top cut.
If Blake were to win the game, you mean?
Yes, I'm starting to be a bit concerned because Blake's playing this matchup quite well, and if things could very easily go poorly. My ID not particularly smart, but that's all right because Blake still needs to win.
Yeah, the fact that Blake is going first is huge because that kind of gives Blake the turn, that free turn that he always wants to use Kiawe. If you're going second, Kiawe's still a strong option, but it's much stronger when you get to go first.
That is true, and there's a option there for a free discard off of Acrobike. There's an Ultra Ball.
Yep.
Gets rid of 2 energy off of the Ultra Ball. We've got a second Ultra Ball, so he can Dedenne next turn. There's a Welder in hand as well. This is a perfect hand for Reshizard.
And he hasn't even Stellarwished for Guzma yet.
That's true. There's still time. We can do it, Blake.
And I don't know if you were paying too much attention to Blake's hand, but James's hand is actually atrocious. I think I saw like 4 fire energy, something like a beast ring or something. It's not pretty.
Well, sometimes that happens when you play 15 fire energy. Blake just trying to decide here whether he wants Reshizard or whether he wants Eevee Snorlax. Both reasonable attackers, but I'd say,
right?
yeah,
Sure.
I'd be taking Reshizard because Eevee Snorlax can, can't take a knockout.
I mean, the only scenario where you would take Eevee Snorlax is when you've got a dead hand and you're like, I'm going to have to use my GX attack next turn to draw up to 10. But I think Blake is not suffering from a dead hand right now, and he hasn't even used Stellar Wish yet.
No, that's
so
true.
And seems like the way to go.
And he's got an absolute, a beautiful choice here. He's deciding, oh, hey, well, do I want to attach 4 energy with Kiawe, or do I want to attach 3 energy and keep playing the game? So it's a really good discussion and choice to be having. And it looks like the Welder is going to be the way to go. Double attach onto the Reshizard, and even finds the Heat Factory to draw some more
It's actually a very
cards.
interesting debate, because typically, if I'm looking at this, like, not judging the specifics of this game, I would just think, like, if you go first, you'd go for the Carway option. Like, second, you'd go for the Welder option. But if you factor in the fact that Welder draws extra cards, Yahweh isn't necessarily always going to be the better play of the two.
He's grabbing Let Loose here, so we could be seeing another Let Loose. We'll see if Blacephalon manages to come out of it on the positive.
In theory, you would think that using a Let Loose is gonna hurt Blacephalon more than it's gonna help it. But after we've seen James's opening hand, and also the fact that James has been drawing pretty well off of Let Looses here, I'd be very surprised if James gets a worse hand than the one he just had then.
Well, I mean, there was Heat Factory for James there, so he was drawing some more cards, but if you're going to let loose Blacephalon, this turn and the turn that you go down to the B string is probably the best turns to do it. We'll see whether James can get lucky off of this one as well as Blake. And Blake obviously has the Jirachi to work with here as well.
Yeah, he hasn't even used Stellawish yet, and even if James draws relatively well, when Blake inevitably Stellawishes into Guzma, he's going to be able to take down anything that James puts onto the bench.
When he inevitably goes for the Guzma off of the Stellawish, he should be okay. And looking there at James's hand, he has an Ultra Ball, so he is out. He's got energy as well. He can attach, and there's a Cynthia too, so...
Yep, as expected, his hand is infinitely better than the last.
Yep, this is a much more playable situation for Blacephalon. As a general rule for you, do not play Let Loose Marshadow against Blacephalon. It just never works. For whatever reason, there's some demon pact that's being made between these two cards.
Yeah, it definitely seems true. And let's see if there's an equally...
no Guzma!
Guzma, but no.
No Guzma on the Jirachi, who'll have to attach the escape board and retreat into his other Jirachi.
You know what? Skateboard's probably actually better than Guzma for that Stellawish.
I would say it probably is. He's going into it as well. Let's see what happens.
Okay, this time he'll find the Guzma.
This is the Guzma.
Surely.
Oh no, it's just another escape board. So disappointing.
Or an Acro Bike.
Looks like the escape board is the right play here. He's got an Acro Bike in hand. Means that he's got 2 more shots to potentially Stellawish into the Guzma next turn.
I'm shocked he just didn't get it though.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time.
It just doesn't happen. And James top decking a Blacephalon here, so now suddenly this hand looks really good.
Yeah, I don't think his play changes. I think he's still just Ultra Balls away with Megano and Fire Energy. Finds himself something like a Poipole and then benches the Blacephalon and Symphius for 6. That seems like a perfectly reasonable turn 1. Unless he's got something else in mind. Maybe he's thinking, rather than playing Cynthia, I'd rather just go for a Let Loose and try and find a Lily. Maybe he's just going to Cynthia the Ultra Ball back in because that's a card to find off the Cynthia.
I'm perfectly happy to grab it. That's perfectly fine. Cynthia puts those cards back into the deck and 6 fresh ones coming up. James looking for some Nest Balls, some Poipoles, maybe even a little Meowth to save himself from this Reshizard next turn.
Yeah, I'd be pretty scared of that Reshizard just blowing up that Blacephalon I just benched. So the Meowth seems like a pretty important card to find off this Cynthia just in case that happens. He's found Heat Factory, Ultra Ball, a couple Fire Energy, so he's certainly going to be able to have at least a decent turn, it seems.
Certainly will, and there's the Heat Factory into 2 more Fire Energy. And so now Blacephalon really kicking off. He can discard 2 Fire Energy with the Ultra Ball, get himself another Poipole if he'd like, and the Lily in hand means that next turn he's going to be drawing even more cards, which is exceptional.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to grab the Meowth here, just in case the Ditto is knocked out, but if the Ditto's knocked out, you don't really need the Meowth anyway, so it really doesn't matter which one you grab, as long as that Ditto survives. You can turn it into a Persian or a Naganadel.
Getting the Poipole here probably safer. Knock out the Ditto, doesn't matter. Knock out the Blacephalon, the Ditto can't be knocked down, so keep that one for a Persian if it happens. And the Ultra Ball is in hand, so the Persian is potentially a play for next turn if Blake manages to get the Guzma.
I mean, surely he will, right? He's got 2 Stellar Wishes. There's no way this man can miss.
So there's a Kiawe off of the top deck, goes for the Stellar Wish, and there's the Guzma, there it is. He's got the
right
Guzma.
on cue.
So he's able to grab that one, and it means that he's got the luxury of a second Stellar Wish if he'd like it.
I imagine he wouldn't mind it.
No, it seems like a pretty solid play.
If he can find access to a fire energy, then he can at least take advantage of that heat factory this turn.
And he also has that acro bike as well, so he's more than likely going to be able to do some stuff. There's another Guzman.
Alright, now we're back to normal Stellar Wishes. Found back-to-back Guzmans off of the Stellar Wishes. Obviously, favouring the acro bike here because he just needs a little more card draw at this point. But
don't need another Guzma at this stage. We'll save it for later when we can do another Stellar Wish into a Guzma.
Yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen.
It'll be fine. Alright, so now Blake trying to decide what the best option is. Obviously, the knockout on the Blacephalon is going to be oh, look at that, another Guzma. Oh, hey, how's it going? That was fun times.
Almost like they're playing more than 4 Guzma.
You'd think that was the case, but unfortunately, no, it is just the 2. And now with the Fiery Flint with the Welder in hand as well, there's potential for a really big play here. Could power up another attacker if he chooses to, or even just sit on those energy cards for next turn, enabling him to power up a return knockout if James manages to knock out this Reshiram.
The main thing he wants these fire energy for, honestly, is probably just to get used out of that heat factory while he can, because you never know how long it's going to be before James replaces it with an ultra space.
That is true. So one of those fire energies surely will be going for that heat factory. And one attached to the Reshiram, so goes for the Guzma straight away. And take that Blacephalon out. That seems fair.
It seems like he's going to go for a Flare Strike instead of the GX attacks, giving him a bit more flexibility to work around the GX attack later on. He is holding Welder and 2 fire energy, so in the future he will be able to charge up another attacker pretty quickly.
It's true, and it looks like he's going to grab that other attacker now. Looking through his deck, he's possibly missing a Reshiram here, so may regret discarding that Growlithe, because without the Reshiram in deck, there's not going to be a decent backup attacker here. You might need to
don't forget that,
gamble it all on Snorlax.
Oh, he's actually going to go for Dene here, which is interesting. Don't forget that he is going to be taking at least 2 prize cards here, so there's a decent chance that he just naturally unprizes the Reshiram. And if he does, then that will work out pretty well for Blake. But he didn't, so you might have to actually resort to going for EV Snorlax and maybe charging up for that GX attack.
Yeah, the EV Snorlax, unfortunately, is not going to be able to take a knockout this turn, so Blake in a bit of an awkward setup. If the Blacephalon play comes off, which it very easily can, the Ultra Ball here will be able to find a Persian, then Blake could be in a bit of trouble.
It's certainly quite possible this could go badly for Blake.
Oh, but Persian's prized for James as well.
Oh no,
my goodness.
That's pretty devastating.
That is crushing. That would have been the absolute perfect turn to show off just how powerful Persian GX was. But no, beaten by the prize cards. Unfortunately, James can't get the Persian, has to go for the Blacephalon. But hey, that's fine, because he's still got a Lily for 6, so he could just hit a bunch of Beast Rings here.
I mean, I think he needs at least 2 to get this knockout right. I don't think he can ever get it with 1. And wow, he's actually probably going to have to find a Let Loose if he wants to keep digging for it.
No, I don't actually know if he can.
He didn't even find a Fire Energy, so he can't even use Heat Factory to draw a couple extra cards. That was like one of the worst hands he could have possibly got. He did get 1 Beast Ring, it looks like.
Yeah, 1 Beast Ring there. Enough. But yes, I was only going to be able to put 4 energy into play at most, and one of them is for Nagano. Actually, no, that's a Poipole in hand as well. So, yeah, that's just horrific. It means that this Reshiram not only survives, but is going to be able to take a reasonably big knockout. Maybe Blake's going to regret discarding that Guzma.
I feel like if there's another Let Loose in deck, James almost has to play it now, just because I think if getting this knockout on Reshiram this turn is like his one big opportunity to win this game, and if he misses it now, he might not ever get that opportunity again.
Well, does he have the option to actually play the Let Loose, though? There's no Let Loose in hand. We're just looking at a bunch of Naganadels and a supporter that he can't play.
Yeah, true. If no access to searching for the Let Loose, he's probably just going to be forced to either half hit this Reshiram or maybe sacrifice Poipole, hope that Blake doesn't find another Guzma, and maybe get a second chance at Beast Ring turn.
Looked for a second there like it was James about to pass, but no, he goes for the beast ring there. Put the 2 energy on the field, and they're both on the Blacephalon. That's all he really can do at this stage. And then a Ganondorf could potentially charge up, but it's not even going to be a half hit here.
I feel like James is probably not going to put the Blacephalon on the active, unless he wants to go for bursting, maybe try and retreat.
No, we'll just
try
sack
and
this Mew
but
here,
yeah,
looks like it.
I'm just going to sacrifice the Mew, because if Blake does miss Guzma, then he will get a second chance at Beast Turn. And we did actually see Blake not only play Guzma last turn, but he also Ultra Ball. Sorry, not Ultra Ball. I think he Fiery Flinted away his other Guzma in hand.
Yeah,
so.
he did. So there was 2 there, and he binned both of them in the last turn. So maybe a bit concerned here. He does have the switches, so he can switch into Jirachi and then back into an attacker if he needs to. So hey, we get another opportunity to Stellar Wish into some Guzma.
This one's a pretty big deal, though. If he hits this Guzma, I think it almost just steals the game. But if he doesn't, it's going to be pretty tough because there's no way for him to avoid B-String from happening again next turn.
So he gets the Heat Factory, which means he'll be able to draw some more cards. He's actually got the Dene in hand as well, which means that there's going to be a potential to draw a lot of the cards in his deck. It just depends whether that Guzma's there or not.
He's obviously got the second Stellar Wish as well, due to the fact he's holding yet another switch in his hand, so definitely a lot of different ways that he can find it, but there might only be 1 or 2 left in deck. If there's 1 prize, or even 2 prize, then he's going to be out of luck.
Certainly will, so retreat back into Jirachi. And the question is he going to go straight for the Stellar Wish here? Yes, it looks like he will. Choosing not to do Dene first.
If he had gone for the Dene first, it would have increased his odds a little bit. Except, obviously, he's hoping to not need to bench the Dene. So he's like, Stellar Wish first, see if I get it, then I won't need to put the Dene down. Now that he's seen that he's missed it, he has to make that decision of whether he wants to go for it or not, or happy to settle for a different play. Maybe he just benches a Snorlax and Kiawe's to it or something instead of trying to get the knockout.
Well, he could even use Welder to attach 2 to Volcanion and take a knockout on the Mew, meaning that he'll at least get past the Beast Ring turn next turn. But you just can't give Blacephalon that opportunity. I mean, it's in some real trouble at the moment, and if you can't manage to get there, then I guess...
I did see 1 Guzma in Blake's deck, so if he chooses not to go for the Welder play and he invests into this the Dene for Guzma play, then there is 1 in deck for him to hit it off of, but it's not great odds considering it looks like there's at least 15 or so cards in Blake's deck, so at best I'd say he's got less than a 50-50 chance of hitting it.
Looks like Blake going for the Ultra Ball here. Might be looking to bring out a Pokemon just to discard it.
Unless he's got another switch in his hand and he wants to go for another Stellar Wish.
He's going for more.
He does actually have another switch. So he might choose to go for that instead. Nope, he's just going to settle for it. It means he gets to see at least 1 extra card than see with Stellar Wish. And he's done as much digging as he possibly can.
Ah, there's the Guzma. There's the Guzma. So he's able to get that knockout. And at this point, James has to be really concerned. With only a Cynthia in hand, this could very easily be the very end of the game.
Yeah, I'm struggling to just see where James can come back from here. I mean, not only is he losing this Blacephalon and losing his last chance at playing B-Strings, but he's also losing majority of his energy on the... He's got access to up to 4 Naganados if he runs that many, and he's able to pull it off. He's definitely got the energy and discard to do as many charging ups as possibly fine. But he's probably going to need a Welder if he ever wants to attack with Blacephalon next turn. And we both know that the supporter for choice for James this turn is probably going to be Cynthia.
Yes, and top deck's a beast string, so that's so disappointing because that was literally all he needed last turn to get a knockout.
That would have been so huge last turn.
So disappointing. Sometimes things just don't go the way that we want. At least this turn James doesn't lose, but I struggle to see a way that he's going to take 6 prizes.
Well, yeah, there's no way that he's going to be attacking with Blacephalon this turn, or at least not for the attack that he wants to use. In fact, I don't think I even saw access to a Blacephalon in his hand.
Looks like it's just going to have to be a turning point here.
Yep, he's just going to...
Well, he's going to Heat Factory instead. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Because he has the extra energy, so he can always just discard it.
He's got a treasure to find, I imagine, another Meganodon, if not. Oh, Lele.
Tapu Lele, but I don't know if that does anything for him. If he plays down the Tapu Lele, he's got no option other than to just hope that Blake doesn't have the last Guzma.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd have no bench space left after benching it, so you'd have to win the rest of the game with just turning point. I don't think you're going to come back 4 prizes behind from Charizard with just turning point.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a struggle.
Putting it out of his deck. Yeah, I don't see any win conditions for James that doesn't involve Blake just randomly not attacking for the next couple turns. Looks like he's...
Oh, that's time being called there, I believe. So James is turn 0 here. And
So
goes for the 80 damage. So hey, at least now James has the opportunity to stall for a tie. Blake obviously needs...
We were just mentioning at the beginning of the video that James only needs a tie to make top cut. So all that James needs to do to get the outcome he is hoping for is to survive. But Blake has exactly enough turns, I think, to win the game, it seems. He's got... this will be turn 1, James will be turn 2.
Yep.
And then Blake will have one last turn to close out the game. And what can survive a Reshiram? Not much.
Yeah, not much, especially if they choose to continue attacking. I think the only thing James can realistically do here is bring out something like a Dedenne and hope that there's no energy left in Blake's deck. And I think that's what James is looking at here, is trying to decide how much energy Blake has. See if there is the option for that play. You can see there that Blake has the Fiery Flint though.
Blake used the GX attack last turn, right, to knock out that Meganodon, so he has access to, to Flare Strike this turn. So the only 2 options James has is either stalling out that Dene, as you said, and hoping you can't retreat, or maybe even just going for the knockout on this Reshiram and hoping you Guzma.
Well, the question is, how do you actually get a knockout with the Reshiram with the hand that James is playing with?
Well, he's got Lele for Welder, and he's got the 2 Fire Engine in hand, so the only card he seems to be using is Blacephalon.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any way to find it.
That's the important piece, and he just doesn't have it, so maybe unfortunate here. James playing down that Lele. Looks like he's going to grab the... Well, there's no other supporters in deck apart from the Welder, so he's going to grab that one here. Obviously the Guzma is in hand, so he can choose to just play that if he wishes. Also doesn't actually need to attach anything, although it's interesting, maybe is an attached to Lele play even an option here? 80 damage on the Reshiram, is Lele ever going to do 200? Probably not.
Well, at most he can get 3 Angie on it with 60 plus 80 from the 4 Angie on Reshiram, which is not going to be quite enough. Did James have a Let Loose left? Because if he does, he might just be forced to go for Guzma Let Loose. Hope that Blake can't retreat.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't have access to Let Loose, I imagine Blake's probably going to be able to find some way to get out of the act.
Oh, it's going to be interesting here. I think James is still thinking very, very hard about this turn. I'm not sure what the best way is. Obviously, James can't allow this Reshiram to stay in the active. If he wants to win the game, or at least get a tie out of the game, then the Reshiram cannot be active. So looks like the attachment goes to the point ball.
There's no attacks that he can use as well to make it hard for Blake to win the game. He's got nothing that can put a Dedenne to sleep or stop it from retreating or anything like that. The only attacks he can use right now are going to poison or deal damage, which isn't going to make it any harder for Blake than he needs.
There we go. So Blake is in the last turn. He needs an energy, and I think there's a Fiery Flint in hand. So the question is there an energy left in deck? As long as there's one, Blake wins the game.
No bench space to go for the Let Loose, so yeah, there it is.
There it
is. We're good.
He's got it. So there we go. Blake wins through and manages to make it into the top cut. James now waiting on Resistance, but hey, he's played some good players. I'm sure that he'll be able to get in. Thanks very much, Jordan, for hanging around and recording this one with me.
Not a problem, man.
And thanks everyone for coming along. If you like the content, then feel free to subscribe to the channel by clicking the sable eye in the middle of the screen. On the left hand side are some videos that YouTube thinks that you might like, and on the right is our playlist for more games from the Gawler League Cup. Maybe you've missed the previous ones or you're keen to see the next couple. They'll be in that playlist for you. Thanks very much everyone for watching, and we'll see you all next time for more from the Sable Eyes. Bye.